my favorite pieces of gear for 2024 was the KMA Machine's Endgame, and the feature that impressed me the most on the Endgame is the AI-powered double tracker. When I did a demo video with the Endgame, I mentioned that I'd love to see that double tracker as a standalone pedal. Now, I'm sure a bunch of other people had that idea, but most importantly, KMA Machines had that idea as well, and they have brought it to life with the Geminus. This uses the same double tracker engine as the Endgame, but it has added some extra features, and the inputs and outputs make it usable in just about any guitar rig that you might want to use it in. So we're going to dive straight into this. I'll give you a quick overview. There's going to be a lot of greasy, dirty guitar tones in this video, but I promise there will be some really nice, pristine cleans and edge of breakup tones towards the end. A massive thank you to KMA Machines for sending me this unit so I can make this video. Let's go. Before we make some noise with the Geminus, let's take a quick overview of the controls. We've got the width control, which is going to control the overall stereo spread of the doubled guitar sound. We've got the time control, which I like to think of as a tightness control, and then the level control over here, which is going to control the overall blend between the double tone and the dry tone. At the center position on all of these, there is a little indent, so you can kind of feel it click in there. With the level at noon on there, it's roughly going to give you an equal volume between the double take and the dry take. But if you want to turn that down or up, it will automatically compensate the overall output through each channel when you're running in stereo, so you won't get any weird volume mismatches on there. There is a mode control, which is going to let you integrate this with your rig however you like. You can go mono in, mono out, but I think this thing really sounds its best in stereo. So it can be run mono in, stereo out, like I'm running it at the moment, or it can be run with a stereo input and stereo output. If you want to access stereo on here, you just need to use a TRS or a stereo cable on there. So I've got a standard mono guitar cable going in to the Geminus, and then I'm using a TRS or a stereo cable for the output over there. I've got this switch in the middle for that reason. Then we've got a pitch switch over here. So if you've got it in the center, this is going to be like the double tracking on the KMA Endgame. There's not going to be any pitch modulation, but you can add a little bit of pitch modulation or a little bit more pitch modulation on those two settings there. We'll get into those in just a little bit, but let's just hear all knobs centered. Again, mono in, stereo out, post distortion. I've got a nice big, thick, crunchy Les Paul tone. This is everything that I liked about the double tracker on the KMA endgame, and I think it's fantastic that you don't have to deviate too far from those centered positions on there to get a really usable faux double tracked tone on there. Personally, running it in stereo, I tend to want to have the width a little bit higher. I find all the way up maybe is a little bit extreme for that kind of hard rock guitar sound, so somewhere around 1 or 2 o'clock on the width is really nice. And the time control, if I was going for, say, a more accurate double tracked sound, I'd run it nearly all the way down, but running it up a little bit higher almost has that kind of old school automatic double tracking sound on there. You know, it's not quite like a pitch detune, it's not quite like a short delay or reverb, it's just adding some width and some thickness on there. I also like, again, that level control, if you turn it up or down, it's not messing with the overall balance in stereo, which is really cool. So I think I like running that at noon or again, just below on there. Let's play around with these pitch settings now. I'm really curious as to what this is going to do, because when I did a demo of the end game, I did mention that, you know, this is like an alternative to one of my favorite widening and embiggening tricks, which is using some stereo dual detune. I wonder if this is going to give me a little bit more of that. So let's start out dry, then I'll kick it in with the pitch in the middle, then we'll hear the more subtle setting in the up position and the more extreme setting in the down position. I love that not only have they just taken my favorite aspect of an existing product and put it into a smaller, more affordable unit, they have improved on it, and those pitch settings, especially that more extreme one, just makes me so happy. That might be one of the closest things I've heard to that Yamaha SPX90 symphonic setting in a standalone pedal. Like if you want to do the Zakk thing, or you want to do the John Sykes 1987 thing, that with basically the other controls at noon and just that second pitch setting on there, nails it. That is so enjoyable to play. It's so greasy. Just that setting alone is worth the price of entry, I think. I totally approve. So we need to hear this with the cheesiest kind of shimmery, compressed 80s style clean sound. I've got the JTG out. I'm on the neck and middle pickup. I've got the onboard preamp engaged, a whole bunch of compression, a little bit of reverb. The reverb is after the Geminus on here. So let's just go for like the doubled sound on here with everything at noon. Then we'll go to the pitch modes on here. This is going to make a lot of you very, very happy. Let's have a listen. That's really fantastic for those sparkly 80s style cleans. For more of a traditional fat, clean, or edge of breakup sound, it can also add some nice subtle girth and width on there. So if we run the width a little bit lower on here, the time quite low, and I bring a little bit of level out, I'll just put this in the center position again so there's no pitch modulation. Let's check out what it does. Pitch settings on there are actually quite nice as well. Again, I really like that KMA have taken the time to not only pull out a really impressive feature from an existing product, but to improve on it. And for me, that mode where you've just got all 3 knobs at noon, you're in the second pitch setting on there. The fact that if I wanted to run this right at the end of a stereo chain after reverb, delay, and chorus, I could do it. If I wanted to use it as the first stereo element of my chain and then run it into a bunch of other stereo capable effects, I can do that. Being really compact, having the really nice soft switch on here, having the option to have a little internal control on there if you want to disable the buffer and have true bypass is a really nice quality of life factor on there. And again, if you liked what you heard with the end game, but you went, maybe there's too many features on there that you may not use, I think this is a great one to look at. I said with the end game, it was probably the most impressive double tracker that I have heard, and I will stand by that statement. This sounds really, really natural. The stereo width that it gives you stacks up really well to actually double track guitars on there. But now with those pitch options on there, it can get me closer to my favorite stereo pitch detune sound, but with a twist. I don't think it really sounds like anything else out there, yet it sounds familiar and really musical. So if you'd like to learn more about it, I'll drop a link in the video description. If you want to support me directly, there's links to my Patreon and the music that I make with my band Ragdoll. Again, thank you to KMA for getting me one of these so I can make this video. These should be shipping right about now. So if you do want to grab one, again, check the link in the video description, and I'll see you all on the next one. Cheers.